This is the story about a girl named Precious, who became a detective. She lived in Botswana, a wide dry land with a lot of amazing things to see. There was the Kalahari Desert, a great stretch of dry grass and thorn trees that went on and on into the distance, farther than any eye could see. Then there was the great river in the north, which flowed the wrong way. It did not flow into the ocean, as rivers usually do, but back into the heart of Africa. But most interesting, of course, were the wild animals. There were many of these in Botswana: lions, elephants, leopards, monkeys, the list goes on. Precious had not seen all these animals, but she had heard about most of them. Her father, a kind man, whose name was Obed, often spoke about them, and she loved the tales he told.
"Tell me about the time you were nearly eaten by a lion,"
she would ask, and Obed, who had told her that story perhaps 100 times before, would tell her again, and it was every bit as exciting each time he told it.
"I was a young man then,"
he began.
"How young?"
asked Precious.
"About 18, I think,"
he said.
"I went up north to see my uncle, who lived way out in the country, or the bush, as we call it in Africa, very far from everywhere."
"Did anybody else live there?"
asked Precious. She was always asking questions, which was a sign that she might become a good detective.
"It was a very small village,"
Obed said.
"It was just a few huts, really, and a fenced place where they kept the cattle to protect them from the lions."
This fence had to be quite strong. A proper line fence has to be made of strong poles from the trunks of trees.
"I slept in one of the huts with 3 of the boys. We did not have beds in those days. We had sleeping mats made out of reeds, which we laid out on the floor of the hut. They were much cooler and easier to store too."
This was the part of the story that Precious liked the best.
One night,
Her father said,
I woke up to a strange sound.
"Did you know what it was?"
she asked, holding her breath as she waited for her father to reply. He shook his head.
"No, I didn't. And that was why I thought I should go outside and find out."
Precious closed her eyes tight. She could hardly bear to hear what was coming.
"It was a lion,"
her father said.
"and he was right outside the hut, standing there looking at me from underneath his great dark mane."
Precious opened her eyes cautiously, one at a time, just in case there was a lion in the room. But there was just her father telling his story.
"How did the lion get past that big, strong fence?"
she asked. Obed shook his head.
"Somebody had not closed the gate properly,"
he said.
"It was carelessness."
Precious caught her breath.
"Did you see his teeth?"
she asked. Obed nodded.
"The moonlight was very bright,"
he said.
"His big teeth were white and sharp."
Precious shuddered and listened intently as her father explained what happened next. Obed turned his head very slowly. He could not get back to the hut. It would take him too close to the beast. But just a few steps away were the family's grain bins. These were like garden pots, but much bigger, that were used for storing corn. They were made of pressed mud, baked hard by the hot sun, and they were very strong.
I ran, not back to the hut, but to the nearest grain bin. I pushed the cover back and jumped in, bringing the lid down on top of my head. I was safe, or so I thought.
Precious breathed a sigh of relief.
There was very little grain left in that bin,
Obed said.
so there was plenty of room for me to crouch down.
And spiders too?
asked Precious with a shudder.
There are always spiders in grain bins.
Said Obed.
But it wasn't spiders I was worried about. It was the lion. I could hear him outside, scratching and snuffling at the lid. I knew it would be a matter of time before he pushed the lid off with one of his big paws, and I knew that I had to do something. But what could I do? So I took a handful of those dusty husks, and then, pushing up the lid a tiny bit, I tossed them straight into the face of the lion.
Precious looked at her father with wide eyes. This was the best part of the story.
And what did he do?
She asked. Obed smiled.
He breathed them in, and then he gave the loudest, most powerful sneeze that has ever been sneezed in Botswana, or possibly in all Africa. Ka-chow! It was a great sneeze,
Obed said.
It was a sneeze that was heard from miles away, and it was certainly heard by everybody in the village, in every hut. People awoke. "A great lion has sneezed," they said. "We must all hit our pots and pans as hard as we can. That will frighten him away." And that is what happened. As the people began to strike their pots and pans with spoons, the lion ran off into the bush. Lions do not like that sort of noise.
I'm glad that you were not eaten by that lion,
Precious said.
And so am I.
Obed said.
I might have given him indigestion. It's well known that if a lion eats a person who's feeling cross at that time, he gets indigestion.
Precious was not sure whether this was true or whether he was just making it up to amuse her. She decided that it was not true and told him so. He smiled and looked at her in a curious way.
You can tell when people are making things up, can't you?
Precious nodded. She thought that was probably right. She could tell.
Perhaps you will become a detective one day,
he said.